Salutations, friends, and welcome to another fabulous video of connections, dynamics, and timeline. Welcome back to this series. We will definitely be hitting on status quo. We'll look at a Google map of Kaylee's travels briefly through her friend Shayla. We're going to look into connections more through Kaylee's friends and how they're connected to Xana's friends. We're going to jump ahead into the college years just to get a understanding of their friend groups. And we're going to explore a topic of these shoes hanging on power lines. I've covered this before in an older video. I'm covering it again because now I have more information, more photos, as well as more body cam footage. We're going to look at these shoes on power lines and see where they're located and what they could possibly be associated with, and then see after the massacre how some of them are no longer there, which I find very interesting. It can mean nothing or it can mean a whole lot of something. So you decide for yourself. So here, shoes hanging on power lines is often interpreted as a symbolic memorial, signifying that someone has died and is now walking in heaven. Some believe it's associated with victims of violence, though that can depend on people, places, and things, the community. What type of underlying causes can escalate to that? What kind of players are involved to do something like that? And then some can say it's just an act of vandalism or a prank. The thing with pranks is, and you'll hear this in one of the body cam footage, do you think someone was pulling a prank on you? Sometimes pranks are just a prank, but there is a line that can be crossed, that it becomes more than just that. It could be a signal of, hey, you're being watched. Hey, I'm watching you. And I cover that in my stalking research paper. When I think of an act of vandalism or a prank, I think of those places where those hidden gems of small towns, which I'm aware of because I grew up in a small town where we take people who are visiting us and we have like a shoe tree. We also have a place where there's a telephone pole that has sneakers and shoes and boots and winter boots and all sorts of footwear attached to it all the way up to the top somehow, and then along over the power lines. So that's what I think about when it comes to vandalism or a prank. Not as much as personalized. This I'm kind of seeing, I'm getting the feel of it being personalized, and we'll look into that. I also have talked to people about this and mentioned to it, and I ask them what's the first thought to their mind when they see this, and they say that it could be linked to gang territory or activity due to the potential for violence, as well as organized crime. I don't know what happened there. So all right, so we'll just do a quick overview of a quick summary of what we have covered so far. And throughout, I'll be doing some Roz's rants. I'm going old school with that. This is more about mass media, prosecution, law enforcement, the lead detective, Brett Payne, maybe a little Karen Reed, little Delphi, just kind of the cases that are kind of grabbing the attention of many people, mostly because of how these cases are being conducted, how people are seeing a lot of corruption, which is kind of shedding light of how there's just so much misconduct going on that it's hard to take any of these actors seriously, as well as judges. Sometimes things have to get worse before they get better, but it's good that more people are paying attention. And thank you for the comments, for letting me know that you appreciate people like me who are really looking into this case and kind of exploring topics surrounding it, because other people don't have the time to do that, but they want to be informed correctly, not so much by mass media, because we are learning how much disinformation that they do. So real quickly, we've talked about the color of psychology, and we'll continue throughout when appropriate. That Xana's high school, Post Falls, was really close to Keely and Maddie's high school of Lake City. We talk about the status quo, in particular about stranger danger, which J. Edgar Hoover disinformed the public, and the media spun it and kept it going. What I was saying is that crimes like these, the victims, 99.9% know their perpetrator. Are there instances where the victim did not know the perpetrator? Of course. Nothing is absolute. There are definitely going to be outliers. But in regards to what we have learned about these officers and the prosecutors of these cases that I just mentioned, it doesn't look like the officers do the work. They don't do the due diligence. They don't do the investigative work. They want the public to do the work for them, and the media do the work for them, that's how it looks to me, which is lazy and shows low self-worth, in my opinion. Also with the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, he aided and abetted the rise of Christian nationalism and rumors. So they were very big in this case about rumor control. Sometimes rumors are true, and we all have experienced that. When the rumors first come out in the beginning, there's a high probability that it's mostly true. Maybe some fiction, but mostly true. And the MPD really wanted to, as well as the prosecutor, Bill Thomas, wanted their narrative to be the narrative, which looks to me more as a rumor due to the judge saying how they're just inept. We talk about cults. Real quick, a cult is a group of people who share extreme beliefs and practices and who are often manipulated and harmed by their leaders. Cults can be religious, quasi-religious, or social groups. The characteristics: members have extreme devotion to person, object, or goal. Members are cut off from outside influences and may be penalized for leaving. They use control and manipulation to keep members obedient. They're secretive and hostile to outsiders, and may engage to illegal or dangerous activities. So what jumps out here with me that I wanted to expand on is extreme devotion to person, object, or goal, and are cut off from the outside influences and may be penalized for leaving. This makes me think of Ethan Chapin's siblings, Hunter and Maisie. Many of us had wondered, and I believe I mentioned in that cult paper, research paper, how they went back to the university right after break and kind of just jumped right back into it. I'm sure some of it has to do with grief, but if you're part of the Greek life, you have extreme devotion, like here in this photo, with the one member having a tattoo that says family over everything. What I have learned so far, just exploring the Greek life through research papers and what I've seen them posting, you basically no longer are an individual. You are part of a group. And would they be penalized if they did not come back? I find it very interesting that, you got to keep the status quo of the fraternity life and sorority life, go back with a brave face, we're with our family. And that was definitely perpetuated by the media, a la Good Morning America, having Sigma Chi on and interviewing them, and then showing Maisie getting sweetheart of Sigma Chi, and then showing how happy they are and they're smiling and how everything is okay now, just wrapping it up in a perfect little bow. I just find that very interesting how that was presented. And then in regards to Dutch Bros, I was thinking about it, or it just popped up in my head. What if Kaylee didn't want to work there? She worked there in her high school years. Now she's in a different place, different options. She wants to explore life a little more, which is definitely a valid rationale, which could be why she got snubbed by this dude wearing the Dutch Bros sweater, because people in these types of workplaces take it very seriously and take their competitors very seriously. So that could be an explanation of why Kaylee did not want to do Dutch Bros. And then we look into one of Shayla's friends, or went to high school with Kaylee. She ends up working at Jitters. So she may have had an in with Jitters because of this high school friend who also is in the same university and who's also in a sorority. So we're going to expand our connections a little bit over time and get into some heavier topic as well. So just real quick, I just seen some buzz around, but this channel isn't for entertainment, unlike mass media. I take these topics very seriously and spend a lot of time in researching them, and I make a conscious effort to present this case as classy and with couth due to the fact I'm talking about the victims and their families. I want to say, when in regards to the prosecutor, he is not very mindful of the victims or the families, because we've witnessed him in court yell out, what about the family? What about the victims? What about their family? But the only time he does that is when he's losing an argument or trying to push his agenda. So you're using victims to help your job out, which I do not do. Unlike mass media, definitely uses the victims and the families as ways to create drama and gossip, which we have witnessed with Ashley Banfield, as well as others on MSNBC and CNN. And this is mass media with a large following. So I do not do that. I am coming from a perspective of a licensed medical professional and applying the knowledge that I've gained with my master's in criminal justice. I've had some criminal justice experience with working in a youth residential facility before I got my degree. I have some experience, but I know my place with experience, unlike the lead detective, Brett Payne, who has very little experience. He's got military, but that does not always translate or land being a detective, and using that as leverage as if we should listen to him or the judges or his fellow coworkers. And I do have a little snark and sass, because I am human, and that's how I deal with life. In order to deal with these heavy subjects, both academically, personally, and this channel, I do have somewhat of a dark sense of humor at times, but not as dark as some of these students have that surround these victims, with the amount of blood they like to use for Halloween on their face, knives, lots of guns. I know some of it is cultural and kind of the area, but just because it's a norm does not mean that it is safe. A lot of ski masks, which I can see because some of them listen to specific EDM that has that, which I can see, but there's a time and a place. And granted, they're young, but it's just a little, and we've seen a few of those posts where it's not sensitive to the family or the victims. So we have to really direct our attention to the right sources of information, not to the ones who are being very cognizant of what they're doing. So I am nothing like Nancy. And here she has Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger may claim I'm autistic to avoid death penalty. So she put this the other day, and then on her thumbnail it said I'm autistic, but then she took it off, or someone took it off because of the comments. Right there, and here are the comments. So what I believe she is talking about is what Ann Taylor briefly talked about, mental health. What I believe she's talking about, and I can be totally wrong, but as a licensed medical professional, and I've seen this happen to many people, where they had a tough time when they were growing up due to whatever circumstances, and maybe some underlying causes that the symptom is illegal drug use, illegal use of narcotics, which Bryan had in a moment of his high school years. But since then, he figured out what it was. He started taking care of his body more and putting more of his attention into academics. But what judges like to do, prosecutors like to do, and cops like to do is hold that over your head to show how much of a piece of shit you still are. And as I've learned, there's a lot of restorative justice going out there because of how hard-headed these judges, prosecutors, and police are, and how they may try to use that to say that this was an escalation that would cause him to do something like this. When what I have learned and what I have not only in academics, but have witnessed in my professional career in both aspects is having an escalation of over 20 years is highly unlikely as to these victims going to the university in 2019 and then something happening in 2022. And that window period of escalation. Escalation is relatively a shorter period of time, not over a wingspan of a decade or more. So you see how that disinformation can cause a lot of chaos, like here in the comments. Right here, this person wrote, I know many people with autism. I hate when people use this as a shield and make it harder for people who actually struggle with autism to get the help or resources they need, which is totally true. But that's not what's going on here. And see how just putting this disinformation out can get people to be furious and relate to it in a way that is in an empathetic way, and then place that on Bryan Kohberger, who is innocent until proven guilty. And he is now basically being just as much as victimized as the families are. He is accused, but he is innocent until proven guilty. And the way the ineptness has gone on with this case gives a lot of people valid concern. And Bryan Kohberger also has family. He's got parents and sisters. And as I was saying about the ineptness of the MPD, which is not a total reflection to other police officers and prosecutors and FBI agents, but you're giving them a bad name, and that would make me pissed. He did a lot of I don't knows. Chief Fry, who has now retired, and for Brett Payne, the lead detective, which is his first big case, I find it hard to believe that you don't remember when you're doing something for the first time like this. I mean, if you're going to say trauma of some sorts or PTSD, you had all the answers to get him arrested. But then when it's time for you to actually articulate what you did, all you can say is, I don't know, I don't remember. That's a problem. And that is disrespectful, not only to the victims' families, but to yourself. What does that say about you? That you have like no self-worth and no integrity, no work ethic. And here it says for integrity, you compromised away integrity, not because of big tough decisions, but because of little throwaway acts that you didn't realize were solidifying into a character that was likely beneath you. So I'm sure you remember a lot of what was going on. I'm sure you're very present due to your experience being in the military. So I don't believe that. But not being organized, not writing things down, not being aware of who is collaborating and whose job roles are. That's part of being a lead detective. You have to know everyone's roles and what they're responsible for. And then it doesn't help that we have a judge that just, they were inept. You're being too harsh. You're being too technical. Well, if you're dealing with sciences, you have to be technical. That's part of science. It's the methodology. It's the processes. Because if you don't have integrity and you don't have a work ethic, the science is not going to be accurate. And this gets me a little ramped because as a medical professional, a licensed one, now you're tainting sciences altogether. So then when people look for us, when they are in need of help, have a hard time trusting because they tend to believe what's going on TV than what's actually going on in real life. So now you're making our jobs more difficult, our profession more difficult, and now we have to undo everything that you talked about and redo and relearn and reteach all the way the shit should be done. So this ineptness doesn't affect this little town of Moscow. It's a ripple effect. So if you don't have the intelligence to write shit down or to organize your work or to organize it into a way to give it to the defense so that you can show how you have got this slam dunk case, then you should not be working with intelligence higher than yours like these sciences, as well as technology, IT aspects. You can't have it both ways. You can't work with the best and then bring out shit work. I don't know, I don't remember. And speaking of collaboration, I was collaborating. I know there's people that are more smart than I am. But we collaborated, but I don't remember who was in charge or who did what. So now you're hiding behind that term collaboration to make it sound like you were working a case. But then you wouldn't collaborate with Kathy Mabutt, who is the coroner, who's been the coroner there for years and years. Yes, she has an RN license, but that does not mean she is a working RN. She probably hasn't stepped in the hospital for decades, but she does know about policies and procedures and methodologies. So when she gets to the crime scene, she's not allowed in until after Brett Payne is done, which the coroner, part of their role is to collaborate with the police with the active investigation, and she is there to make sure they don't touch the bodies and maintain the integrity of the scene, which she was not a part of, which makes you wonder, which opens these holes that look terrible for this investigation. And her whole thing with toxicology, which we'll get into with a different case. But with this case, she basically said the toxicology report's not going to matter. Yes, it is going to matter, and she should know this as an RN. You need to know what's going on inside the body to understand, to either help your case, to build it, or to rule things out. And this just talks about misinformation, where it's inadvertent spread of false information without the intent to do harm, which I have misspoke several times because of the amount of information, and I'm human. But it is not the same as disinformation, which is false information designed to mislead others and is deliberately spread with the intent to confuse fact and fiction, like what Nancy Grace did and many others. She's not the only one. Long Crime does the same thing, and I've called them out several times. All right, so let's start with Anderson Shayla. Well, Shayla Anderson. Shay, and she is followed by Kaylee and Maddie. And you will see her in the top left. Kaylee is pinned on her page, and she joined April of 2013. And just a quick overview, you'll see more of Maddie liking her post in the beginning. Here she is in 2016. Kate Bauman, we'll see that name often, as well as Charlotte Henning in Kaylee's. Again, Maddie liked this post. Here in March of 2017, Kaylee and Maddie are in Lyle, Washington, and she posts, "Don't mind my hair," at Kaylee Goncalves woke up from a nap and took me on a spontaneous hike. And they are along the Columbia River, which I did mark on the Google Maps that I showed the screenshot of. Here they're in Portland, Oregon. And this is the first time I see Maya Hippensteel. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She is more friends with Xana. I saw her in mostly the posts that Xana was involved in. Xana didn't really post a lot on Instagram, and but I didn't see a lot of posts on the Pi-Fi side. But the ones that I did see some of Maya. As I mentioned before, please do not reach out to any of these people on their Instagram. Do not post on there, please. But hers was private, and not too long ago it has been no longer private. So with that, I was able to explore more about these shoes on power lines, and just to get a little more information. So in April of 2017, we see Maya again, as well as Presley Jean, which we see a lot with Kaylee. So we're going to get into Maya. This is where we're going to be jumping around a little bit. She joined in 2013. You're going to see Xana is pinned on her page in the top left, and she is followed by all three girls, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana. I want to say she cleaned out some of her Insta because I've seen it before, and I want to say there was more. Unfortunately, I didn't do a screenshot at the time, but you're going to see how the gaps in her Insta posts are. Here on her Facebook, I could see that, yes, she did go to Lake City High School, where Kaylee and Maddie went. She's from CDA, and she studied at the University of Idaho. Oh, and she's only friends with Kaylee on Facebook. And this is her first post, which is January 3rd, 2019. And there we see Kay Ballman, which you've seen on Kaylee's Insta. And here is her first tag, which is April of 2018. And Kaylee liked this post. And here she is. She is at the University of Idaho, and she's a Delta Zeta. And this is August 21st, 2019, which is the same month and year that Kaylee and Maddie go to. So her next post is until October 10th of 2021. And here she writes, "My favorite visitors." And it looks like with the guardrail and the railing, it looks like 1112, which is the home that had the big video recording in the front. And here you see the water tower. So this is 2022, November 13th. And she's not seen here. Doesn't mean that she's not there, but we see her here in 2021, but not 2022. And here is the video recorder. So on her LinkedIn, it has that she graduated in December of 2022, so the next month, which is when I believe Kaylee was going to graduate as well. Per the family, if I heard correctly, she was graduating early. So it says here that she went from August of 2019 to December of 2022, Delta Zeta alum. She got a psychology with a minor in criminology. And I wanted to point that out because this is what the media said in the beginning when Brian Kohlberger got arrested. He was a PhD student in criminology, which means he has the ability to do the perfect crime. You know, he's got a criminal mind. He can be able to go in there and do everything so correctly that he wouldn't get caught, except for he did a lot of dumb things along the way, which you can't have it both ways. And here she says that she was taking some classes while being a senior. So she had some accelerated classes. So she was a smart cookie. Here it has her as a barista at Jitters Coffee from April of 2018 to June of 2022. So could it be that this was a way for Kaylee to get an in to Jitters? Is a possibility. And here is 1112. And notice the same guardrail. And they were standing right here, Maya and those two males. And then here is the water tower, and this is King Road. So on November 14th, this is what Maya wrote. "A goodbye between you and I is too permanent. So until I see you again, I love you forever and more. Thank you to all four of you for making my life and everyone else's lives just a bit better to have you in them. You will all be missed endlessly." So she's sitting here with Kaylee. And here is Tori Long, which is a friend of Kaylee's. And here is Maya and Xana. It looks like the back patio of 1122. And here is a group picture of Xana, Maddie, and Ashlyn Couch with Kaylee tagged in. We're going to jump ahead a little bit to March 31st of 2024 because here she's sitting with Miranda Collette and Jaden Zabrowski, which Kaylee is within the same friend group. She has these two friends, and Miranda is also a Delta Zeta at U of I with Maya. And Ruby Simpson comments on her page a lot. And Ruby Simpson was roommates with Maddie and Ashlyn the year prior. And here we see Elizabeth Scarlett, who is mostly friends with Xana. And here is Xana with Maya and Ellie Shepard. And this was posted on March 27th, 2023, saying the absence is heavy. Now, this is also Maya and Ellie. They spoke at the ceremony on behalf of Xana. So now we're getting to the power lines with the shoes on them. So these are done both by Maya. The first one she posted, this was here on May 24th, 2022. It doesn't look like May to me. It looks like it's at a different time period. And it shows 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs hanging. And then we have in November 12th, 2023, is a picture of Xana standing underneath one of them with sandals on and a funnel. So I don't know why Xana is standing down there. I don't know if she's just posing to be by the queen because she's doing her funnel. Maybe she did it. I don't know. She does have silly goose energy. It could be a possibility. But I find it interesting that the sceneries are relatively the same. For example, they both have snow, but you have the same blue car in both pictures as well as the same red truck. It's just this one's missing the black truck in the middle. So we don't know the exact dates that these were taken, but we just know when they were uploaded. And Xana is near one of these sneakers. And then here, she's standing relatively in the same spot, but now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs of sneakers. And this is a honoring of Instagram post. So it could just be a prank that she's doing. Very well could be possible. But people who take that seriously, which people do, may not like that she's doing that. So the earliest time that I can find of these shoes on the power lines is October of 2021 per Google. And here are 1, 2, 3 of them. And then there's a fourth one way over here next to the house. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here is after the massacre. Everything is boarded up. And this information I received from a Reddit, but they also have a Substack. Her name is Catherine, and it's called The Doors Were Locked. And she posted this about 3 months ago, it looks like. And she does a nice timeline of video, photos, and news of like November 14th moving forward. And she's the one also who has the WSU car accident on November 12th, 2022 that I showed in a previous video. I got that from her Substack. And she is pausing her graduate studies on military strategy. So she and I have similarities in that we're structured, we have integrity in our work, and we take it seriously, unlike what we've seen with these cases that are going on, where you need to be that. So I saw this photo, and then I noticed this pair of sneakers. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, this shot looks familiar. Like a picture was taken like in this area. Maybe not the exact angle, but kind of near. And I looked through my photos and I found this, which is Hudson Lindau, who was another tragic death at that community before. This is May 1st of 2022. So they're standing in front of the 1122 to take a picture. It looks like someone is on the patio. The lights are on. It could be just because to get the lighting from the house to help with the photo with the flash on. Who knows? But this is Paige, and that's her boyfriend, George. She's in a sorority. It skipped my mind, but I have her information. And he was the president of Delta Tau at the time of 2022. So on May 3rd, this is from KHQ, Nonstop Local. Body pulled from Paradise Creek identified. Cause of death determined. And I will do a video on the amount of people who have had tragic deaths at this university or who are from this university and within the Greek life. And I want to say it's, if I remember correctly, it's either 8 or 9, including the 4, which is a lot for this small, tight-knit community. An autopsy was conducted on the body pulled from Paradise Creek in Moscow on Sunday morning, May 1st. The body was identified as 19-year-old Hudson Lindau, a student at the University of Idaho. According to the coroner, the official cause of death is drowning, and foul play does not appear to be a factor. The toxicology report will not be processed for another 2 to 3 weeks. That just sounds shady to me. Especially with the toxicology report, which I do a lot of the fraternity and sororities, and that seems to be the standard when it comes to these deaths of people who are involved with Greek life in one way or another. So when I looked into Hudson Lindau a little bit, I noticed someone within his high school. And this is a photo from body cam footage on the night of the massacre, around 1:30, 2 o'clock. It's these 3 students that undercover police, who were all clad in black, in an unmarked car, driving around to get, quote unquote, underage drinkers. These are the officers that were by the fire hydrant on Taylor Avenue. And these are the 3 students. They were saying, "Stop, come back," when they were walking on Banfield Park. And it's this one in the middle that I'm referring to, because he looks a lot like this person who is right next to Hudson. And this picture was posted October 29th, 2018. And this is Hudson Lindau Vasco, and it says, "Hoko made me want to cut." I don't know what that means. It could be a reference to something that was going on at that time. But this person looks a lot like this person. Same chin, same glasses, hair, ears, shoulders. Looks bigger because it's been a few years. So not only has this person passed in 2022, but then he's around the home where 4 people were massacred. Not only that, it looks like Paige went to high school with all 3 of them. They go to the same university, and she's connected to Xana the most out of all the other victims. So not only does she lose a high school friend, but a college friend within a short period of each other. He is in May of 2022, and the 4 is November 13th of 2022. And there are several students that I found at that university who are surrounded by a lot of tragedy. Another one had a school shooting at their high school, and then the 4 massacred. Another one had a shooting in their neighborhood, like in a restaurant, and then comes to the university, and one of their sorority sisters is massacred. So there's a lot of this tragic death going on, which I don't know, this is why their posts are like the way they are, because they're desensitized to all this tragedy, and this is their way of dealing with it. But it doesn't look healthy to me.
Today I want to go over some body cam footage that...
All right, so going back to the shoes, this is Plunder. I spoke about her before. This is her body cam video of an incident that happened March 2nd of 2022. So at the beginning of the year of 2022. So this happened in March. Then April, May is what happened with Hudson. And then November are the 4. And this is in the 1100 block of King Road. And these are sorority students living in this home. And one of their car gets messed with. She didn't lock the doors, which tells me that they had some safety to not lock the door. Or maybe she was just tired and just forgot. So we're going to look at the shoe hanging near her home when this happened. So right there, here's the sneaker, and here is a crime that has happened. When this cop is walking around, I could not really see off the distance if there were any sneakers hanging at the time. It looked like there was possibly maybe one. So we'll listen a little bit to this, and then I'll jump ahead to where she says that whoever went into her car took all the belongings that were in the front seat, put it in the suitcase, took the suitcase out and put it out in the road, but then put her panties into the cup holder. And I've done a video on stalking before. Stalkers will do this just to let you know that they're watching you. And it doesn't have to be boyfriend or girlfriend. It could be someone who has an agenda of some sorts, just to keep you off balance and to keep you on alert.
Left it out,
right.
And then I take it inside and I open it, and all the stuff that I had, I locked it, I should have my keys, but all the stuff I had up here, all my pay stubs, the stuff I had in the center console, my sunglasses I was literally wearing yesterday were all shoved inside my suitcase, and it was zipped back up. And
so everything that you had in your front seat was now in your suitcase?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's a shoe print over here, and then there's My fuse box under my steering wheel was like.
And here we have another latent shoe print. One here in this car, and then one is at 1122 in front of Dylan's room.
Opened. I'll go get my keys. I just left it like.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to steal it. Why would you open the fuse box? Hot wire? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's odd.
And here, I want to point out, in this area, in August of 2022, August 16th, we're going to look at body cam footage that has sneakers up in this area. They're not here in March of 2022.
Because we've been having those vehicle thefts. Well, there's obviously no way you wouldn't pull prints off this anyways.
Not see any cameras.
No. There's no cameras here.
You guys don't have a Ring doorbell camera or anything like that?
I just ordered one actually.
Oh, yeah.
And I find that very odd that Chief Fry, who also says, we don't know, I don't know. I just lost my train of thought there for a second. And how he says, this is a small, close, tight-knit community. When I hear that, I think, oh, it's safe. But it's so safe that many of these students who live in this neighborhood feel the need to get Ring door cameras or cameras of some sorts. And how it also reminds me with Olivia, Kaylee's older sister, when she was saying on the Chronicles of Olivia, in concerns of safety and security, which is taught in the university from these cop talks about the importance of partnering up, staying in well-lit areas, go to known places, know who you're getting rides from. And she says, what else should they have done? Get a nanny cam. So that tells me that there is definitely an issue within their neighborhood to feel the need to get cameras to protect yourself. That doesn't sound like a cozy place to live where you don't lock the doors.
That's smart.
I don't think any of our neighbors do either.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any.
But we have like a Facebook page, so I was gonna ask on there and see. But like over here, like they didn't take anything. Like I had this ring up there and they didn't even take it. But like that little fuse box is opened, and then there was a.
Is there any damage inside of it?
No, not that I can tell. I don't really know, but I'm just.
Is that your shoe print?
No.
Do you have your phone on you?
I sat on it though, so hopefully I didn't like mess it up.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much we can do with it, but it could. We've been having kind of an uptick in vehicle prowls, and say we find the suspect, and they find say he's wearing something that matches that tread. It just kind of. Now, I mean, it'd be really hard to, unless the person admitted it and said, "Yep, I was there." I mean, which is highly unlikely. But so when did you get back from Boise? You said
I got back last night at like 5 p.m.
Okay, so 5 p.m. last night. And did you lock your car?
No.
Okay.
But I came back out here about 9 because my TV was in here and my like pillows. Except that I don't know. I like heard like someone like talking over there. It was really weird, and then I just grabbed it and went back to
Yeah, because this is kind of a bowl right here. It's, I mean, people could be up in their backyards talking, and
it freaked me out
though.
So right there, we heard this. It's like a fishbowl here, how sound travels, and that was the other thing that they try to say in their press conference, that it was a a normal night without any activity. There was no sounds. It was very quiet, which with the other body cam, how they say there's a lot of noise complaints because it's like a fishbowl and how sound travels. You can't have it both ways. You can't say it wasn't busy and everything was quiet in an area that is known to have sound travel. And the way that she said it, I heard someone talking and it freaked me out and she ran. So, there's a few things to consider. How long has she lived there? How often is she outside? But her instinct was, I'm getting back in the house. I'm freaked.
9 o'clock is when you last saw normal condition, and your TV wasn't stolen?
No, because I grabbed it and I brought it inside. And
Okay.
And
for all she knew, she was being watched, and they were watching her until she went into the house, and then that happened.
my suitcase.
Where was your suitcase originally at?
Right here.
So it was in the back.
It was like right here, and like this stuff was already in here.
Okay.
And they didn't touch it, but it was like right here, and so someone took everything from up there, put it in the suitcase, and then left it outside.
Yeah, that's definitely odd. It's odd because your fuse box is open.
Yeah.
However, I'm not trying to like scare you or anything, but maybe they were trying to steal your car.
That's what we were thinking.
So, we have had.
Leave me my stuff.
Yeah,
or something.
like I'm gonna be nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So when your roommate came out here and found your suitcase in the road, was the hatch opened up?
I don't think so. I didn't ask her.
Okay.
I can call her. She's inside.
Or if the doors were open. I mean.
Call Kate.
Okay. And then, did they say what time that was?
Yeah. Hey, a few questions. When you grabbed my suitcase, did you see were any of the doors open, like the hatch or anything?
No, just the suitcase was sitting outside of it.
And what time was that?
I say around 9:30.
Okay.
Last night?
This morning.
This morning. Okay, so between 9 o'clock last night and 9:30 this morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Is there any damage to your vehicle?
Not that I can tell.
What about the fuse box, the little lid for that?
I don't know what it's normally. The only thing I kind of noticed is my hood thing. If you look down here, it looks like it's bent the other way a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't know.
We're going to jump
Okay.
ahead a little.
Yeah, they might have been.
But the fuse box lids on the ground. I don't know why they shoved everything in my suitcase.
Can I get my case number? Honestly, I think you're right. I think if I took a wild guess, maybe they were trying to take your car and they were like,
we don't need these clothes.
Copy.
The stuff they put in my suitcase was so random.
There's no chance someone's playing a prank on you.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I don't see why anyone I know would ever do that.
Yeah.
But then I found my underwear shoved right there.
In the cup holder?
Yeah, and I took it out. But it was in there, and I was like, that's really weird.
and you said nothing's missing of your knowledge?
Not that I can tell.
Okay.
Oh, no, you're good. Footprints or leaves on this side either.
Yeah.
Take one. We'll probably take. I know it's not much, but we could take one more picture of maybe the footprint next to a ruler.
I took it next to my flashlight.
Okay.
The flashlight.
Perfect. So this is my card.
Okay.
If you happen to say, "Oh,"
So there you go. Just messing with her belongings, scaring her, make her uneasy. Heard strange people talking last night that made her run into her home. And this is March of 2022. Hudson Liddell happened in May. And then 1122, the 4. We'll look into more of these other unfortunate occurrences that happened at the university in a later video. So now we're going to look at August 16th, 2022. right here. See those sneakers hanging? They were not there in March. Here they are hanging in August.
It was non-specific. Sure. And if I'm warned...
And there is that, by that house where the break-in of the car and messing with her belongings happened.
...them, I better go fucking warn them too.
True. And that's the bottom row of the house there?
Which one? Over here? That one? That one's up on, goes through that driveway. The guy's walking right there.
Oh, yeah.
That side there. Guarantee the stairs are going to come right back on as soon as we leave.
Well, I saw that big, tall JBL on the back patio there, so I'll just go chat with them.
Okay, I'll come with you. You want to walk up, or do you want to...
Yeah, we'll walk up. We'll start things off.
Just, it wouldn't be fair, you know, if you're warning these guys, you better warn them.
Yeah.
So we saw that one just recently, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Moscow 11.
And here you can see the shadows of those sneakers.
I'm still on the department channel.
This gets so touchy at times. So from this shot, you can see from a distance these sneakers hanging in front of 1122. I'm just pointing that out because we're going to see a video of a dash cam of this shot in November 19th of 2022, and those are no longer there.
I'm still on the department channel. Moscow 111. We're clear of 1127 King Road.
And there you can see them.
We're going to be out at 1122 Queen Road. Same problem.
And here you can see the shadow of them. In the next video is Xana, and this was uploaded in Jasmine's TikTok. She posted it on November 13th, 2023, a year after. This looks like this was done, I want to say, in August as well, because she's talking about going into her junior year soon and that she lives here. So she's talking about her marketing class that she takes and how she worked interned at Palouse.
Hi, my name is Xana Kernodle. I'm a marketing major here at the University of Idaho, and I'm involved in a couple things down here, including Vandal Solutions. Last year I did Palouse Properties. I was an associate with them, and I basically just worked with Palouse Properties and did advertising for them, did sales events, etc. And this year I'm doing sales, so I'm a sales associate. So basically I just call people around Moscow, ask them if they're interested in our business, etc. But yeah, I'm a junior here, so it's really exciting. I love it at the University of Idaho, and I'm super excited to be in this marketing class because it's basically my major. And this is actually King Street, where I've lived the past 2 years, and I really like just hanging out with my friends all the time.
And there are two of the sneakers right there. And this is like the last shot.
We're involved in school events and everything else. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me, and I'm really excited to take on this course.
So now we have, that I found, there could be more, of 3 different photos and video of Xana near these sneakers. Now, when we talk about the symbolism, a lot of people have brought up symbolism with this case a lot. Is it a possibility? It is. Or is it a prank? You decide. I just find it interesting, though, that they're taken down post the massacre. So we'll go ahead and look at those videos. But first, here is one photo that is on the 13th. There is one right here in the upper left, and those are the students that are sitting in front of 1122. So here we have, this is
North Idaho, where four University of Idaho
of passion that has been quote that's going around. There's no suspect. There's nobody.
So from here, I don't know if it's a good angle or not to see if those shoes are still hanging. The house is really blocking that area. We really can't even see where the tower is, but I don't think this is a good angle to be able to rule that out or not.
In custody right now in relation to this. Now, this quote that's going around,
North Idaho, where four
So here, one of the reporters is driving from the grub truck to 1122 to see how long it would take them to get there and drive down King Road. Or maybe not. Maybe this is another angle. And that first photo I showed at 1112, this is them interviewing her. So this was me trying to find a different angle, and you really can't tell. But they do have a lot of garbage up on this house, which there's a lot of garbage, but there are college students. So here is the driving I was just mentioning earlier.
The grub truck on Main Street at 1:40 a.m. 5 minutes later, the map says they returned to their home on King Road. I drove that route this afternoon, starting at 4th and Main and ending at the King Road home. With some light traffic on the road, I arrived at the house in about 3 minutes.
So this dash cam is not the best, and I can't even tell if you can see the one that was in this area.
This suggests it's reasonable to believe.
Up here, the lighting is terrible, so you can't really tell. But I don't see the shadows either. So we need a better angle to actually be able to rule that out.
If Madison and Kaylee traveled...
See, there's no shadows of the sneakers like we saw in the others.
...by car from the food truck, but that detail has...
And here, you can't even see those up here. Like you could with the body cam, you could see even a further distance, those 2 or 3 pairs just hanging there. Here, you don't see them.
...has not been confirmed.
Again, you can't see them.
...confirmed by police.
They're not there.
So
I just find it interesting that after that happened, those shoes are down. Like, they could have been done prior to, but I just find that very interesting that they're just gone. There were several. It was kind of a build-up all throughout. The one that we saw with Hudson, yes, that was after, but it was kind of away and off to the side. Or it could have been a brand new one that just happened to go up. Who knows? But I just find that very interesting that how they show up, how Xana is around them, how Hudson is in vicinity of it, how there was a break-in of a car and messing with their personal belongings by taking out their underwear and putting it in the cup holder. And then we are not able to see them post the massacre. Would any of that Ring camera footage show any of that? I just find this just very interesting to me. Let me know in the comments what you think of that. So here we are back with Maya and her Vasco. So this post she did on April 5th of 2024. I can't see, there's, oh, there we go, 2024. And it says, you could always be thinner, look better. I mean, and the choice that you choose to put that on your Vasco after this massacre is insensitive in my opinion, but maybe there is something else behind it. But then over here, she has on November 4th, 2024. I'm going to assume that this was a post that she did for Halloween. She is now out of college for a few years now, and it looks as though that she has a wound here as if she got hit, possibly one here on her chest. But I do find it a little concerning that she's standing next to golf clubs. Why do I say that? Well, we have heard information of how the victims had different wounds. Ethan's more were suggested that it was something of possibly a golf club could have done it. When their belongings were sent back to the families, Ethan's mom, Stacy, had said out loud that they're still waiting for his golf clubs to be sent back. My thought is they're not going to get them back because it could be part of evidence. We won't know until the trial happens. But the choices that they choose to post are quite violent. Here she says, let's see Paul Allen's card. So I looked up who Paul Allen is, and he was born in Seattle, and then he died in Seattle in 2018, October 15th. He went to Washington State University. He dropped out, but he is known for being the pioneer of the personal computer revolution with Bill Gates. He co-founded Microsoft. And he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2009. He died of septic shock related to cancer on October 15th, 2018, at the age of 65. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's like an inside Seattle type knowledge base, but I don't know how that relates to that. So going back to Shayla. So there we go. We wrap that up with the shoes hanging on the power lines, Hudson Liddell, the connections he had from high school through the university, and how those two have somewhat of a connection to not only Hudson Liddell, but also the four in some way, shape, or form. We don't know all the details with proximity and their friendships. We have another type of incident where someone's car gets broken into. Granted, it was unlocked, but still they went in, messed with their belongings near one of those hanging shoes. Then we were able to see somewhat that those shoes were no longer there, either right before this happened or shortly thereafter. I'll keep looking to see if I can find some more photos of the crime scene. I want to say I did take a few of them in the road when they were measuring, and I could not see them at that time. So maybe we'll have to keep building on that, but it's definitely interesting, I believe. So here we are with Shayla, and here is Krista Brenner, who is also friends with Kaylee. Kaylee calls her K-Hawks. Brenner is her married name. Here we have Presley Jean, and then Maya comments. We have talked about Miranda Collette, and Kaylee has liked this post. She has a pet snake named Bear. Kaylee liked this photo. And here they are together in 2017. Both Maddie and Kaylee liked it. And this is near Portland. This photo Kaylee liked. And Presley Jean, who is closely associated with Kaylee. And here Shayla is she turned 21, and this is in 2020. And Kaylee turns 21 in 2022, so there's a 2-year difference. All right. Let's go ahead. So this is with Kaylee. So this is the first post that Shayla is with her, and it's 2016. And here Kay Bauman that we have spoke about several times, as well as Miranda Collette. And here is Daisy Simister, which that is her married last name. Her maiden name is Couch, and she is sisters with Ashlyn Couch. And here, Shayla writes, damn, my girlfriend is hot. Shayla writes, I love you. We see Kate DeCour, who is Jack's sister, make a comment, as well as we talked about earlier, JC Brokoff, when we saw her in her comments. So here I'm just going to read what Shayla wrote about Kaylee. And this is when they're in Portland on Kaylee's Instagram. And Shayla wrote, wish you were here, Kaylee. Wish this wasn't a reality. My spontaneous, wild, sassy friend, you were taken way too soon. It's been amazing to see what you made of your college life. You were on to so many bigger and better things. I remember how badly you wanted out of CDA, Idaho, to see the world, and to see your plans to head out to Texas. Holy crap, you actually fucking did it. You wanted a certain lifestyle, and you went out into the world and worked for it. You did it, and you made us all proud. You really couldn't have done better, Kaylee. You lived this life to the fullest, surely with some ups and downs, but you did it with grace and beauty. You brought so much joy and light to all of us, and to say I'll miss you is an understatement. I promise to keep fighting for you as you would have done for me or any of your friends. Your story will be told. We won't be quiet, and we will get justice for you, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. Time wasn't on your side, but I hope you knew I was always cheering you on from back home. I love you, Kaylee. Rest in peace, Angel. And she wrote this December 5th of 2022. Okay, and then Kate DeCour makes a comment around this time on March 25th of 2017. So there you see how Kaylee has made very long-lasting deep connections with her friends. She wasn't just frivolous, not transactional type of a friendship, which shows what kind of upbringing she had. And here they are back in 2017. And here is Maya. I love you both. I really don't see much of Maya on Kaylee's Insta. And through college, I'm going to double check for the next video, but she does not really jump out at me. It is mostly Xana that it does. So here they are in Portland and at the falls. And then Shayla also writes on her Instagram on March 26, 2023, 6 years ago today, we visited this waterfall. To this day, it's the most fun I've ever had on a spring break trip. Thank you for always taking me along for your adventures and dragging me out of my bed for spontaneous hikes. I'll always be thankful for our friendship and hold our memories close. Love you always, friend. So that just shows how she was able to make deep connections with her peers and definitely missed. And which is why I think a lot of people have gravitated towards this case, because as I was talking about the prosecutor and law enforcement, that they tend to play the system. One aspect they do is they use time. They will purposefully hold off and reschedule, especially when it comes to domestic violence type situations or family court, mainly in domestic violence courts, because they understand that the person doesn't want to have to rehash and have to talk about it over and over again. So when you give time, they don't want to deal with it because it was a difficult time period for them. And they understand also that time heals. So they purposefully postpone court to have to not deal with these domestic violence situations, which I think many people are aware of that, and that's why we're keeping it going, so that we have to hold them accountable. And we are seeing how unaccountable they have been throughout this case. And here is Voodoo Donuts. I got a weird thing about Voodoo Donuts. The way their advertising is, the way they use marketing to, I guess it's just being edgy, but I'm not a fan of that. And here they are at the falls. Okay, so that's all on that. And then we'll just go ahead and look at the map that I've done. All right, so I went ahead and mapped out from Rathdrum to Portland. So here I did Snake River, downtown Boise, the university, Pullman, the airport, Wolf Lodge she goes to, and that's her home. It's not the actual home that she's at. She lived, per Facebook, it said she resided at Rathdrum, Idaho. Her family does. And so from Ratham to Portland. And here's Lyle, what she was talking about, how they went on the hike near the Columbia River. Here's the falls. Here's the Clackamas Town Center. Voodoo Donuts. So here, it's doing something different than I'm used to. I think it's because of this view. So before, in the different view, it'll let you know how long it would take to go from point A to point B, and it was 6 hours. That's what I was just trying to show. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I can hear it in my voice. Leavenworth, a lot of people go here, including Kaylee. It looks like a cute town, but I have a couple plans for doing this Google Earth on how to showcase certain travels of students throughout. Let me know what you think, if that's something you would be interested in. I want to thank you all for being here, and if you made it this far, congratulations. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and then I will add the press conference of that sheriff that I spoke about in Florida. I am Roz Knight, and let's continue to squeeze the quo.
That may have occurred in the investigative process from the patrol standpoint and within the Detective Bureau assigned out in Tamarack. And that's why we're here. We're here to give you some clarity. For many of you in the room, you've been with me in this room for the last 6 years, and if you think back to 2019, one of the things I told this community was that when I know, they will know, and that this agency will remain a transparent and accountable organization, not just when we're doing things great, but when we come up short. And I'm going to start with that. It is clear, based on the preliminary information I've been able to acquire so far from our investigators within the Office of Inspector General and Internal Affairs, we fell short on this one. We fell short in a response in terms of how some of the patrol personnel had documented certain facts related to calls going back to December. It's clear that some of the investigative practices conducted by detectives was also a shortfall. And so as we're continuing to gather more facts on this, I'm going to end up back in front of this camera. Make no mistake about it. Because I want to make sure this community continues to trust us and know that when we get this stuff wrong, people are going to be held accountable, and I'm going to step up and own every bit of it. So that's where we are at with this. Currently there are 7 members, 7 total, that had some involvement with this investigation that are out on suspension right now on administrative leave until we can come to a final course of action in terms of this investigation. 1 is a lieutenant, 2 sergeants, and 4 deputies. Again, that's 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, 4 deputies. If you need names and things of that nature, you can get that from Vita after the conference. This is as short as I can get, and I'll roll over, and I think it's probably going to be more appropriate to take a few questions if I can. Keep in mind, I cannot disclose or start talking about the homicide investigation, and there's minimum things that I can present in terms of the internal affairs. We'll start here.
Sheriff, we have been told that Mary Dingle sought help from the Tamarack unit and that little was offered. How do you respond to that?
I think that is an accurate assessment and that we could have done more from what I've been able to analyze. I'll start with some of the first things that I've been able to witness and look at. From the original call for service that occurred back in October, because we're going way back, folks. We're not just looking at isolated incidents. We have a robust list of all the calls for services that occurred at that site location, either coming from the husband or coming from the wife or any other member that had any concern. What I witnessed in October, the first call that came out was related to a tracker. I saw some of your stories. You're accurate in that assessment. It's clear that we probably could have done more in that element, and that's what we're looking at in terms of what the deputies' responsibilities were at that time. These aren't shortcomings of policies, procedures, training, or equipment. For my assessment, this is really just a shortcoming of performance, whether it be complacency, not taking a greater interest, and not doing their due diligence to make sure that they're documenting everything in an accurate manner, so that when it does arrive in the investigator's hand, they have a comprehensive report that will allow them to make better judgment and decisions. That's one start. The second aspect is the call in December that we had, where a deputy went out to the scene and spent 35 minutes and 34 seconds, because I watched every bit of it on a body-worn camera, assessing and talking to the victim, talking to Mary, gathering information from her. And it was very robust in terms of the threat spectrum that exists, the totality of times that she had made related to, I fear that he's going to kill me, etc. And at that time, based on the evidence and things that were presented, there was enough there where we could have potentially pursued a probable cause affidavit so we can arrest him and take him off the street. And that didn't happen. We know that. The other elements that I'll be able to talk a little bit about is when this case finally made it to the assigned detective in the district. We're looking at that. There has been a multitude of shortcomings from my perspective that I know from being an investigator, having worked cases where things could have been done a lot better and they were not done. And so that's why I prompted and called for this internal affairs investigation, because on the surface, just seeing some of the things we found in the first couple hours, remember 24 hours, we were already looking into this. It was clear that no, we're going to have to address this one. We're going to have to come to the public and let them know what the hell happened.
Sergeant Travis, right here. The patrol issue, Sergeant Travis Allen, who witnessed the suspect and the kidnapped child at that point, walking right past the patrol car, 4 houses from the scene of the crime, knowing shots had been fired, knowing people were calling all over. Is that not an active shooter situation when you know the shooting is occurring and you see a stranger, and he even says, it's unknown if it's related, I just find it kind of odd to walk around this time in the morning and she has no shoes on. Kind of odd, and he lets her go?
Well, I can tell you this. You mentioned Sergeant Allen, correct? He is also one that's currently suspended, and we're examining the totality of it. So for going back to the clarity, you asked one question that had 2 parts. The first part, no, it's not an active shooter incident. The way we classify active shooter incidents across this country under Department of Homeland Security protocols and the FBI, that would not qualify. The individual conducted a homicide, and then he stalked additional victims and killed them independently, but there wasn't an open air environment where he's actively shooting at random people that has no participating role in that particular criminal pattern that he took. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Here.
But what about his behavior? What about his performance there where the guy's walking by? Still should be a major person.
The entire performance protocols is what we're looking at, and I don't want to jump ahead of this. Let me get to this real quick. There will be people that will lose their job over this. And I'm focused on making sure that they don't win a damn arbitration, because that happens too repeatedly in this profession, where individuals out in other states, after I fire someone, determine that they want this person back in our county and in this community. I've dealt with that numerous times throughout my career here as a sheriff. And so I don't want to put out any information about the standing of this investigation, because when I have to make the final decision that members are going to be terminated, I don't want them back here.
Sheriff, is it safe to say that these 7 suspensions don't necessarily have to do with this specific incident that happened over this weekend, but as you mentioned, dating back all the way to October?
Roy, you bring thank you. That's a very good point, okay? I hate that we have to talk about the shortcomings, because our tactical team out there, our SWAT team, did a remarkable job on the hostage rescue and saving that young kid's life and making sure it didn't escalate to a potential active shooter in any other environment. But we can't highlight that when I know there's other shortcomings. And because of those other shortcomings, it forced me to go far back as we can from the first few calls of service that came in. And as we're analyzing every single one of those calls, going over a year ago, we're starting to see things that where we probably should have done better.
Sheriff, do you know where his guns taken away? According to one of the documents, they were given to BSO. Do you know if the guns remained in BSO custody, or were his weapons ever returned?
Let me backtrack a little bit. Early on, there was a call for service in which we were able to come out there and seize all the weapons for an injunction violation. Then there was a second call for service that came out after the injunction was basically null and void because of the victim had elected to go in that path. And then those guns were returnable in the sense that he had the right to receive them. And then this rose into how many more other calls for services did he receive since the second time since he received his weapons back, and whether or not there was enough evidence there for us to take him a second time. and a third time, or retain those weapons to keep him out of his hands.
The order said they should be turned to him. The second injunction, sought December 30th and issued and served to him on January 8th, said the weapons must be turned over to the sheriff as well as the CWP.
Again, we did not collect any of those weapons that I have in front of me right now in terms of the second injunction, but this is within this investigation. I want to know, why didn't we do it? Who was the detective assigned? Did they file the proper paperwork with the courts? These are all the processes that we're looking at, and like I said, if we have to do a round 2 or 3 of this, we most certainly are going to do it and tell the community what they need to hear. Where are we at? Let me go here, here, and then there.
2 parts. We received one document also where there was just sort of as an aside, it said, father appeared to know the officers. Is that part of your investigation? And then past that?
I can tell you what I've witnessed so far. This isn't a matter of a relationship element or someone, a deputy, showing favor. This is just a matter of what I've seen of piss poor performance, complacency, and people not doing their due diligence to ensure that all the checks and balances that we put in place in this agency over the last 6 years, we have stopped several active shooter incidents. We've investigated over 5,000 cases. We divert over 2,500 individuals towards mental health care. We created a threat management division that works 24/7, 365. So there's enough resources in this agency to support every single law enforcement officer across this entire county beyond BSO, because we have supported and investigated hundreds of cases in Fort Lauderdale and Coconut Creek and Margate. And so it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating for me to have to stand here and witness this and know that we're an organization who has had our trials, from one active shooter event to the airport to Stoneman Douglas to one tragedy after the next. And this administration, we put forth everything necessary to be successful. And it's inexcusable that individuals fail to perform their job. And it's not an excuse within anything from administration to policies to protocols to training. It's just bullshit work by other officers.
Sheriff, what work could she have done, and what would you say to other women who are in fear and wonder, if she couldn't get the help she needed, what can I do?
Look, I don't want the public to lose faith that we can't do this when we're handling thousands and thousands of calls per service. We were over 700,000 calls per services every year just in our law enforcement division. That is an indicator that we're going to be successful handling our cases. So to the public, to the community, to those mothers and women out there who think that we're going to drop the ball and this is a consistent pattern, know this: when we rectify this situation, I'm going to send the fear of God amongst this entire agency to make damn sure we don't do this again. Because this death is on my watch. It's on my watch. I'm the sheriff of this county. I'm responsible. 2 times this community voted me in this office because of the way I perform, because I hold people accountable. I've terminated over 75 employees since I've been here, investigated the whole agency under the PPP scandal. I'm not shy away from holding us accountable. I'm not shy about taking an aggressive tone when we fail. There's 2 million people in this county that are counting on us every day to do our job. I fight for the funding, I fight for the equipment, now they have to fight for this community and perform, or they're not going to survive here. Terrell.
So, just for the record, how many administrative leaves for these deputies are tied to this past weekend, for one? And then 2, was there a delay in finding any of the victims on the morning that this happened? And then 3, any of the shortcomings tied to this Amber Alert, could this Amber Alert have been avoided if these shortcomings?
No, I'll start and work backwards. So the Amber Alert, I didn't see any issues there. If something comes up over the next couple of days as our investigators are analyzing this more, we'll come back and talk about it. But on the surface, that was not an issue. As far as the shortcoming, all 7, this is related to the most recent call for service going back from going back from October, December 29th, and of course our response going out there on the tragic day. You had one other in the middle and I lost it. What was your second one?
Was there a delay in finding any of the victims on the morning that this happened?
I think there was somewhat of a delay in terms of finding them, but the discovery aspect, if you look at it, she was fearful, she was running for her life, she's going from one spot location to the next, so that takes time to be able to discover exactly where is the incident location, where is the final resting place, unfortunately, for the victim. That, you know, I'm not going to micromanage that, right? There's some things that just take time. That's just the nature of doing business. But what I won't shy away from is the shortcomings in terms of investigative practices at the officer level and the detective level. And by the way, this investigation will include every single administrator from the captain to district commander all the way down. No one is going to get a pass on this. And if anyone falls short, they will not survive this.
Sheriff, you gave a message to the community and to women. Do you have a message for the families?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a devastating time for them. And it's hard to stand here non-emotional, and forgive the profanity that I dropped momentarily. It's very difficult because I hold these people close to my heart when they die. I read every report. I look at every single tragedy. And I'm a human being like everyone else in this room. And when I know we could have done better and we didn't do better, and this wasn't a matter of not properly funded or all these other things that historically has just failed this community, this isn't it. This is just individuals not doing what they're supposed to do. So I'm regrettably sorry to bring that to this family because they're hearing this right now. And it doesn't bring any solace to them, it only hurts them even more. Because I'm basically saying we had a chance to save your loved one's life and we failed.
You talked about 2 specific calls of service incidents. Do you know about how many are an average?
One more, you broke up a little bit.
You talked about 2 specific calls of incident situations. Do you know how many calls of incidents you guys have received from the home or the victim in totality?
No, but that'll be part of the overall investigation. I can tell you, looking at the notes and bullet points that came through, it looked like dozens of calls for services over a span of a couple years, where it's just been one conflict after the next, whether the husband's reporting the wife, now she's reporting him, and so on and so forth. But it is a robust amount of calls for service. Abnormal.
Could you please clarify how he had the guns, when the guns were taken, when they were given back, and were the guns that he used or the gun on Sunday morning is...
I honestly couldn't answer all that because we're running 2 things here, right? There's a homicide investigation that have to get all the factual elements together related to weapons used, crime scene, all those different complexities. So I don't want to navigate into that realm. And then the second side of it is that you talked about was whether or not when we issued the guns back, there's a timeline that was assessed on. And it was in compliance with the courts, right? I know our general counsel was involved in that. There was, information going back and forth as to whether or not we can release the weapons, should we release them, and at the end of the day, we had the legal obligation to return those weapons back.
But what does policy say you take them back after the second injunction?
There's a lot of varying things there, right? It's not a policy element in terms of when you take it back, because when we do our risk protection orders and we're following these things, the courts are also involved in that process, right? So the biggest thing I look at is, did we follow all the procedural elements to submit this one in a timely manner? Was the document in which we submitted comprehensive enough where a judge, whether it be a warrant or anything else, would analyze it and look at it and say, this is thorough enough, let's move forward? And I don't see that happening. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to wait for my investigators to come forth and bring me another information.
I'm sorry, was a risk protection order filed, or should it have been?
You're going through theoretical hypotheticals, right? I have to get the facts lined up first before I can make a decision and tell you with 1,000% certainty, yes, it should have. When my investigators come to me and they say, yep, Sheriff, X, Y, and Z should have been done, it wasn't done, then I'll have a better answer for you. I'll take one more. I saw something over here maybe. Any names, information, stuff like that you need, Vita will give you guys a printout for it. And like I said, if we have to come back, we'll come back. To the community, I just want to leave them with some level of assurance, just letting them know that we understand where our shortcomings were in this incident and that we're going to get them right. Thank you.
Thank you.